Chad Baker-Mazara was doing his Chad thing Saturday at Coleman Coliseum. In the second half, he went into the crowd to try and save a ball. Some words were exchanged, which got a female Bama fan a tad upset. Chad's back to his normal self. Is that a good thing or bad thing?
It's great as long as they're winning.
If he doesn't want to play basketball anymore, he's got a career as a heel in the WWE. Katie Johnson, this guy, Bruce Pearl knows how to pick him.
So the victor goes to smack talk. You're in the zone.
From the ABC 3340 sports team, this is The Zone.
We were very prepared. Coaches did a great job with the game plan. The kids executed early. You gotta play well early if you're gonna win on the road. We played well early.
Obviously, it's a disappointing loss. You got to give Auburn a lot of credit. You know, the #1 team in the country for a reason.
It was not only 1 versus 2 for the first time in SEC history, but Auburn and Alabama was a battle of 2 #1 teams. The Tigers #1 in AP, the Tide #1 in the coaches. Auburn will be everybody's #1 tomorrow after beating the Tide on their home floor 94-85. The Tigers celebrating by doing the Crimson Crane. The tone was set, really, when Miles Kelly hit a 3, and then Janai Broome hit a couple of 3s for a 9-0 lead. But as for Alabama, they were missing early and often from long range.
Well, it wasn't even the missing. It is the fact, I think the quote I heard most often from Dan Schulman was 4 seconds, 3 seconds left on the shot clock, because they were needing almost 30 seconds to get a shot off, and that's not how Alabama plays basketball. Tribute to Auburn.
I just hated the approach right away. Janai Broome got 2 early open looks. Yeah. Shot 35% from 3 last year. He's 30% this year. This is a guy that's added to his game. I think he didn't make a single 3 when he was at Morehead State. He goes to Auburn, all of a sudden he's Ray Allen. I didn't like that approach, and I still don't think this Alabama team defends to the level they're going to need to if they're going to eventually go win a national championship. They're just not there defensively.
Yeah, we thought Bama had the edge in the backcourt. Didn't play out that way. Denver Jones, Chad Baker-Mazara, Miles Kelly, Taha Pettiford combined for 59 points.
They outplayed Alabama's backcourt. I didn't think Sears played well. I didn't think Youngblood played particularly well. But again, this one game for Alabama to lose 9 points and get outscored 9-0 to start and 7-0 in the first half, I don't even know how they were in the game because they got beat pretty soundly.
Alabama's guards just didn't look comfortable all night, whether it be Youngblood, whether it be Philon, whether it be Sears. In Auburn, you know, with that age, man, they got all these guys that are experienced, these guys that come from smaller programs that go into Bruce Pearl's system, and they're just flourishing at the right time. And right now, I think that's one of the best backcourts in the country.
Was Auburn better than Alabama mentally and physically?
Yesterday, no question. And I mean, this Alabama team, soft's the wrong thing, but this Auburn team will come in and bully you on your own court. That's not Alabama's game. They just did not respond to it. Now, they have responded to Kentucky, Mississippi State, some other teams, but they did not respond well to Auburn.
Oates said Friday at his press conference that we're not going to make this a boxing match or a wrestling. Well, they could have used a little of that because Janai Broome looked mighty comfortable on the road in his arch rival's backyard. And from a guy, rather it be Cliff Amore or Grant Nelson, you're going to have to bring a little more nasty, as we'd say back in the day.
Now we talk about the guy who was the true difference maker, I think. Yeah, Broome had 19 points, 14 rebounds. But the true MVP to me was Denver Jones and his defense.
I don't know when Denver Jones is going to finally, somebody's going to, in the media is going to talk about him being one of the best defensive players in college basketball. Mark Sears is one of the best players in college basketball, period. And not that he did it by himself, but he did a great job on Mark. Made his catches tough, stayed down, stayed with him in the basket. How do you stay in front of Mark Sears?
Now, Jones opened the second half with a 3, and then he blocked one of Sears' shots, and then he hit 2 more trays. Including, he hit a banker 3 at one point. Auburn was up 53-39. Jones finished with 16, and it was clear from the outset that Jones really bothered Mark Sears.
He did. I mean, think about when Sears finally got the two threes to fall. Sure. He wasn't hitting them from the line. He was hitting them from 25 feet back because they pushed him off so far.
This game was in Tuscaloosa, right? Not Auburn. Why did Alabama look so uncomfortable and Auburn look so comfortable? Sears, 23% from the field. 18% from 3 on 2 of 11 shooting. It didn't look like a guy that led his team to the Final Four a year ago. He looked lost offensively. And if Denver Jones didn't score a single point in that game yesterday, he still would have been one of the most impactful players on the floor.
Yeah, what impressed me, too, was how Auburn handled adversity. I mean, Sears hit the back-to-back 3s. Cardwell fouls out. Broome's hobbling around on his ankle at one point. Chad Baker-Mazara takes a swipe at Chris Youngblood and fouls out. but for every piece of adversity, Auburn had an answer.
Mentally tough team, and again, this is kind of the culture that Bruce has built. I still think at some point it may unravel quickly in a bad game. We kind of saw it in Florida. They didn't fall apart, but they didn't have a response when Florida hit back. But this team is just about tougher than anybody we've seen. We
talk about how old and how experienced this roster is. 24 and a half. That's the average age of this Auburn team. If they were in the NBA, Oklahoma City would be younger than them. That's a fact. And what they've been able to do each and every game, on the road, at home, they have an edge to them. And I think it fuels them, and it's part of the reason they came into Tuscaloosa and were superior in every stretch of the game.
All right, before we get to Alabama, let's look at Auburn's remaining schedule. 3 straight home games: Arkansas, Georgia, and Ole Miss. Road games at Kentucky and Texas A&M, and then they close out by hosting Alabama. So what do you see there? 6-0, 5-1, or 4-2?
I think 5-1. I think a loss either at Kentucky or A&M. And it's not so much that those teams are really have Auburn's number. It's kind of as they flow in the middle of a 4-game stretch.
Am I going to sound like an Auburn homer if I say 6-0? I don't see them. They just went into Tuscaloosa, and I feel like we've been bashing Alabama a bit. Alabama could go to the Final Four. They could win the national title. Auburn came into Tuscaloosa and was better in every phase of the game. I'm going to say 6-0.
Yeah, well, they're 7-0 in SEC road games right now. So with the winning team, there are heroes. With a losing team, there are always goats. And in Alabama's case, you could say there are 2, Mark Sears and Grant Nelson. And let's start with Sears, who was 4 of 17 from the floor.
Obviously, he's a competitor. He wants to win at a high level. He's been able to impact winning for most of his career by scoring the ball. Well, yeah, we had him 2 for 6. It's 2 for 6 at the rim. So, you know, he 2 for 11 from 3. We got to be able to play hard even when shots aren't going well. I think that's a sign of, you know, high character guys. How hard do you play when shots aren't dropping? And can you keep moving the ball even if, you know, maybe sometimes he needs to get 10 assists. You know, the whole team only had 8 assists today.
Grant Nelson had a double-double, 12 points, 12 rebounds, but he was 5 for 10 at the rim. Jaron Stevenson missed a gimme underneath the bucket. About Sears, is it time Nate Oates made a change when it comes to the starting point guard on this team?
No, he's only had a handful of bad games. Again, he's that experience you want. He gets them in the offense. And again, if he is struggling, you've got 2 guys you can pull off the bench who can speed the game up, who aren't afraid to shoot, and it kind of changes the complexion, makes it harder on your opponent.
I get how big yesterday was. That was a big basketball game. It's time to not hit the panic button.
Yeah.
Take a deep breath. Mark Sears on the bench. I mean, Alabama's not going deep in the tournament if Mark Sears is coming off the bench. Obviously, I think a guy like LeBaron Philon needs to be more involved offensively early. You can run some actions to get him going. But Mark Sears on the bench, that's ridiculous.
Jay Billis pointed out yesterday that this is a battle for supremacy. The Tide clearly lost, not in blowout fashion, but how convincing was it to you there's a clear separation between 1 and 2 now?
It's pretty convincing. But again, at this point last year, we didn't see this Alabama team capable of really getting the Sweet 16, right? And then they go to the Final Four. I think Nate Oates can use this to kind of bring more out of this team, particularly defensively.
There's Auburn, there's Duke, there's a precipitous drop-off, and then there's everybody else. Can Alabama get hot from 3 and beat any of those teams on any given night? Absolutely. But as far as top to bottom, complete rosters, I'll take Auburn and I'll take Duke.
So how does Alabama respond from this loss? Nate Oates had a simple answer.
You know, I told him this is real life stuff. Shots aren't dropping. Something happens in life. You're a front runner where you only got the right attitude when stuff's going well. We had a chance to become #1 in the country. We had a chance to be #1 in the league. We all that's out right now. What we have right now is a chance to play again on Wednesday against Missouri, and we got to answer the bell.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the Tide does respond. Will this be a devastating loss or a wake-up call? Do you expect a big hangover Wednesday when they go to Missouri?
No, I think this kind of game that gets you snapped right back to attention.
I also think Missouri is no cupcake. I know last year they weren't good. They didn't win many SEC games, if one at all. Dennis Gates had his team nationally ranked. I mean, that's going to be no picnic Wednesday night. And bringing in a top 5 team in Alabama, they're going to be ready for them. I'm not saying Alabama's going to have a hangover, but they could play a good game and lose Wednesday.
Doug, if you had an AP poll vote like Johnny does, the big dude over here,
yeah, sure.
who would be your top 5?
Auburn, Duke, Florida, Alabama, Houston.
I'm going to go Auburn, Florida, Duke, Alabama, Houston. That's all by saying I think Duke's better than Florida. Better, more deserving. That poll, the poll's a mess. We're never going to get that perfect. So Auburn, Florida, Duke, Alabama, Houston after that big win over Arizona last night.
So after the trip to Missouri, they host number 15 Kentucky Saturday, and then they host Mississippi State. And how about the final 3 here at 5th-ranked Tennessee, hosting 3rd-ranked Florida at number 1 Auburn. As Nate said yesterday on College Game Day, all those games have numbers, you know, by the names. So out of those 6, are you predicting 6-0, 5-1, 4-2, 3-3, or worse?
Predicting 4-2, and it'll be 2 of the last 3 games they lose.
4-2 as well. They're going to lose at Knoxville, and they're going to lose at the Jungle at Auburn. I know Alabama's played really well on the road this year. I've covered plenty of games down there at Auburn. I don't even know how Florida won that game in the sense of that's probably the most intimidating atmosphere in the country. And you have to go back a few years with Brandon Miller and Noah Clowney. That team barely got out of there, and Auburn wasn't even that good that year. There's no chance they're winning that final game.
But, Doug, you think they're going to beat Auburn at Neville?
Yeah, I do. First of all, I don't think the game will matter as much to Auburn at that point because I think they'll have the SEC title wrapped up. And again, this is an Alabama team that actually plays better on the road, particularly in terms of shooting. And I think with a look at this film, you can kind of figure the voodoo that Bruce just pulled off, and I think you can adapt.
Even if the game means nothing for Auburn, they're going to look across the sideline and see their script day and say, we're going to cut the nets down, and we want to do it after we beat you.
Yeah, good takes. All right, coming up on The Zone, we march forward with some predictions. And would Ja and Giannis make you care about the slam dunk contest again? The Division I Basketball Committee released its top 16 seeds. Auburn was named the number 1 overall seed. Alabama, number 2, the 3rd overall seed. Cooper Flag and the Duke Blue Devils, the 4th overall seed, Florida. 3 of the top 4 SEC teams. It is a basketball league, after all. In the South, it's Auburn, Texas A&M. On the 2 line, Wisconsin and Texas Tech. Midwest, Alabama, Purdue, Iowa State, then Kansas. The West, Florida the 1, and then Houston, Kentucky, and Michigan. In the East, Duke, Tennessee, Arizona, and the Fighting Rick Pitino's of St. John's. There's only been 1 tournament where all 4 number 1 seeds made it to the Final Four 2008. Let's say, all right, let me just ask you this. Will all 4 of the number 1 seeds that were announced yesterday be the number 1 seeds in March?
I think the best opportunity to fall off the 1 line would be Alabama, Florida, because just look at those schedules. I mean, multiple losses could be possible, and that could knock them out and slide a Houston up.
I can tell you right now, Texas Tech's not beating Auburn if they play that game tomorrow, next week, next month. That's never happening.
Yeah.
I do worry about Duke in the sense of, although I put them in the top 2, when your best player is a freshman and you're on that stage for the first time, I mean, that's not necessarily a recipe for success, and they don't got Mike Krzyzewski back there anymore. So I'm interested if St. John's got Duke in a big NCAA title game and he looks across and it's Rick Pitino.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah. If the top 16 or the Sweet 16 that we see in March, which 4 seed has the best chance to knock off a 1?
I like Michigan. I think Purdue's the best team in the Big Ten, but I think Big Ten is clearly the number 2 conference, and right now Michigan's leading them.
I agree with him in the sense of Florida doesn't have the high-end shot making that can essentially put them on that 1 line and be as dominant as the other 3. However, I'm just going to keep saying St. John's because I need more Rick Pitino in the NCAA tournament. I need Ricky P back in the Final Four. I selfishly rooting for the Johnnies.
The slam dunk contest is making a comeback, and we owe it all to Mac McClung. Last night, McClung became the first man to win the NBA slam dunk contest 3 years in a row. And after he accomplished the historic three-peat, John Morant tweeted, "Mac might make me decide to dunk." And Giannis tweeted, "Hey, if you do it, I'll do it with you." Are you buying it? John Morant and Giannis joining the party next year? Would that save the slam dunk contest?
Yes and yes. We need star power. I mean, when it started off, we had the stars in there. I would love to see Giannis try to dunk over a Range Rover. Yeah.
LeBron ruined this years ago, teasing it multiple times because we had a chance to go back to the days of Dominique and Michael Jordan and LeBron
Spud
James.
Webb, baby.
And Spud Webb. But LeBron James, if he's going to have any stain on his legacy, refusing to do this, come on, dude. We know you're one of the best players of all time. What are you, afraid of not being able to win the dunk contest? Who cares? Get in the thing.
All right, coming up on the Zone, we play Pick'em. Boilermakers, Wolverines, Vols, Aggies, Razorbacks, Tigers, and Wildcats Tide. All right, let's play Pick'em. We'll start with the Big Ten battle. The 7th-ranked Purdue Boilermakers, who lost to a hot-shooting Wisconsin team Saturday, is at 11th-ranked Michigan State. Tuesday, I should say, that's when they play. The Spartans beat Illinois by 14 on Saturday. So, who you got? Boilermakers bouncing back or Sparty strong at home?
You said Purdue's the best team in the league, so I'm taking Michigan State at home.
I'm going to go with the Boilermakers on the road. Braden Smith only had 6 points yesterday despite 12 assists. That's not going to cut it if they're going to win games on the road in the Big Ten. He needs to score in double digits, and I think he's going to do it. Boilermakers up.
All right, in the SEC, the headliner is 5th-ranked Tennessee at 8th-ranked Texas A&M Saturday. The Vols came from 16 down at home to beat Vandy and avenge that loss in Nashville as Kai Ziegler and Chaz Lanier combining for 43 points. The Aggies beat Arkansas. They've won 7 of their last 9 games, and Buzz Williams may be coaching up a Final Four team. Vols or Aggies, who you got?
It's at College Station, and that should be enough. But this is an ugly, slow game, the kind that Rick Barnes and Tennessee love. And defense travels. I got Tennessee.
I'm going to keep fading Doug. I'm going A&M. We were talking to the sports office earlier today. Best coach in the SEC, you can argue Nate. You can argue Bruce. Third, I'm taking Buzz Williams. I'm going with the Aggies.
Wednesday night, Coach Cal is coming to the Plains. Arkansas is fighting for a spot in the NCAA tournament. How big would it be for the Hogs to catch Auburn maybe feeling their oats and knock them off at home? But come on. Auburn's better than that, right? The Tigers are not going to drop another game at Neville. Maybe a Rupp or Reed, but not at Neville. Hogs or Tigers, who you got?
Auburn by 15.
Auburn's the best team in the country. They're in their own barn. No one's beating Auburn when they're right at home. They're going to absolutely roll Coach Cal and the Hogs.
Saturday, Big Blue Nation is coming to Coleman Coliseum. The Kentucky Wildcats blew a 5-point lead and lost at Texas last night. Didn't have Lamont Butler or Jackson Robinson, but they've lost 3 of their last 5 now. And Bama's lost 2 games at home, so Coleman Coliseum, not exactly the toughest place to play in America right now. So who you got, Big Blue or Crimson Tide?
It will be a tough place to play because Kentucky brings it out of people, right? And I think just Alabama's clearly the better team.
I think Alabama really needs to get some of their big star freshmen involved, rather that be Darian Reed or Aiden Sherrill. These are 2 guys that were 5 stars, McDonald's All-American kids. And obviously Reed's been dealing with that injury. And, of course, Sherrill, who just wants to shoot threes and could be so dynamic on the low post. I know that's not Nate Oates' or Alabama's game. I'd like to see the freshmen get an impact in this game. I think they're going to play a big role, and Alabama's going to win.
All right, coming up, it's the bottom line. Doug on the Iron Bowl of basketball. Johnny with a blow-by-blow of what happened at the Four Nations face-off and a home run for the ages at Hitchcock Field. Welcome back to The Zone. It's time for the bottom line, brought to you by Moe's, and we'll start with Doug.
Advantage Auburn. The first of all, it could be 4 meetings between Alabama and Auburn. Went to the Tigers for one good reason. Suffocating, in your face, possessing your soul defense. Bruce Pearl's team can make every possession a marathon. Seemingly easy layups are contested by 2 big bodies. Truly, this is how national champions are built.
The single most entertaining sporting event of the year 2025 happened last night right here on ABC 3340 up at the old Bell Center in Montreal. Team USA and Canada squaring off in the Four Nations face-off, and things got off to a crispy start as 2 seconds into the action, Matthew Tkachuk dropped the gloves and beat the bag out of Brandon Hagel. And then right after that, Matthew's brother Brady, well, he wanted in on the action, beating the tar out of Sam Bennett. The U.S. won the game 3-1, proving to not just our northern neighbors, but the rest of the hockey world. Team USA is the new top dog in international hockey.
Johnny loves his hockey. College baseball season is underway, and it was an emotional start to the season at Auburn. Friday night, Cade Ballou took the field, went to one knee, and said a prayer to honor his mom, Stacy, who passed away from cancer that morning. And then in the 6th inning, Ballou did this. Smacked a home run in the Tigers' victory. Coach Butch Thompson said, quote, "Some things are bigger than ball. This was one of those moments." Pretty amazing. And that was on ABC World News tonight.
Wow.
Tonight. That was big. That's our show for tonight. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time on The Zone.